how violence shows up differently at every stage of life. Violence doesn't always leave a bruise. Sometimes it's the unnatural silence of a child. It's the irrational compliance of an adult, or the gradual isolation of an elder. At every stage of life, violence takes on a different shape, camouflaging itself under unique psychological mechanisms and social circumstances. Here is what to look for, from childhood to old age. First, early childhood. Ages 0 to 6. Child abuse and neglect at this age is defined as the failure to provide basic needs, like food, medical care, and affection, or intentionally harming a child's physical and mental development. Because infants and toddlers lack the language to express themselves, the warning signs are almost always behavioral. A child might suddenly withdraw, show extreme terror when a specific adult approaches, or display abnormal clinginess. Regressing in learned skills like potty training or suddenly developing eating and sleeping disorders are massive red flags. This happens primarily because of an absolute power imbalance. Young children rely 100% on their caregivers for survival. At this age, they can't physically defend themselves. They have no concept of safe boundaries. And they often assume all adult behavior is simply normal. If you notice these unusual signs, do not confront the parents directly. Document your objective observations and immediately contact a child protection hotline. Intervention by medical and social professionals is the safest route for the child. Next, childhood, ages 7 to 12. At this stage, we see school bullying. Bullying is a form of repeated, intentional violence. It includes verbal abuse, social ostracization, or physical threats, usually occurring in a school environment where there's a clear imbalance of physical strength or social status. A child might suddenly refuse to go to school, frequently complaining of morning headaches or stomach aches. Other signs include constantly losing school supplies for no logical reason, avoiding social activities they used to love, or showing uncharacteristic aggression toward their siblings at home. As children enter elementary and middle school, they begin pulling away from their families to build their own social power structures. Bullying happens as a way for some kids to establish dominance within their peer groups. And sometimes, it's simply a projection of the trauma the bully is experiencing at home. Encourage the child to talk by asking open, non-judgmental questions and never tell them to just ignore it. Work directly with teachers and school counselors to build a circle of safety so the child knows the bullying is absolutely not their fault. Then, adolescence, ages 13 to 19. This is the era of teen dating violence and cyberbullying. These are behaviors meant to control, threaten, or emotionally manipulate. They happen in early romantic relationships or across digital platforms. A teen might be constantly glued to their phone, visibly stressed or anxious. They might slowly pull away from their old friend groups, abandoning personal hobbies to dedicate all their time to a partner. A glaring red flag is when they are constantly apologizing for or justifying their partner's controlling behavior. A teenager's prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for risk assessment, is still developing. They lack the real-world experience to tell the difference between deep affection and toxic control. Combine this with social media amplifying peer pressure, and manipulative behaviors quickly become normalized. Equip teens with knowledge about healthy boundaries. Instead of strictly forbidding them from seeing someone, which usually pushes them further away, guide them toward anonymous youth support services or encourage them to confide in a trusted counselor. Additionally, young adulthood, ages 20 to 35. Here, we encounter intimate partner violence, or IPV. This includes physical abuse, sexual violence, psychological manipulation like gaslighting, or financial abuse by a romantic partner. The clearest sign is usually a drastic personality shift. A once confident person becomes timid, constantly walking on eggshells to avoid upsetting their partner. They might be restricted from accessing joint bank accounts, forced to report their schedule minute by minute, or frequently cancel plans at the last second with inconsistent excuses. IPV rarely starts with physical violence. It almost always begins with love bombing to build ultimate trust, followed by slowly isolating the victim from friends and family. Victims don't stay because they are weak. They stay because intermittent reinforcement tricks their brain into hoping the partner will revert back to the wonderful person they were at the beginning. Leaving an abusive relationship is the most dangerous time for a victim. Do not pressure them to leave immediately. Instead, help them build a detailed safety plan and connect them with local women's shelters or the National Domestic Violence Hotline for professional guidance. Another important point is middle age, ages 36 to 60. This stage faces two forms of silent pressure: workplace violence, which includes professional bullying and job threats, and extreme stress from being the sandwich generation tasked with caring for both young children and aging parents. Look for chronic fatigue, severe burnout, and intense anxiety when work or family responsibilities are mentioned. They might show an unnatural submission to unreasonable demands from bosses, or conversely, have erratic emotional outbursts with the people they love most at home. In middle age, people are chained to heavy financial responsibilities: mortgages, kids' tuition, parents' medical bills. Workplace abusers understand this financial dependency perfectly, using it as leverage to manipulate. Meanwhile, the sheer exhaustion of being a multi-generational caregiver keeps the nervous system in a constant state of high alert. Establish strict boundaries between work and personal life. Seek intervention from HR or legal counsel if you're facing workplace abuse. For family stress, finding caregiver support groups is absolutely mandatory to prevent a mental health collapse. Finally, seniors ages 60 and older. Here we have elder abuse. This is an intentional act or a failure to act that causes harm to an older adult. It includes physical abuse, financial exploitation, scams, or neglect, often carried out by caregivers or family members. The silent signs include a sudden drop in personal hygiene, unexplained weight loss, or assets mysteriously disappearing. Emotionally, they might show fear when a specific caregiver is present or make massive, inexplicable changes to their will. Physical decline, cognitive issues like dementia, and a shrinking social circle make seniors incredibly vulnerable targets. Social isolation is an abuser's greatest weapon. Elders often suffer in silence out of fear of being put in a nursing home or out of deep shame because the abuser is their own child or grandchild. Prevention starts with maintaining frequent social connections with older adults. If you suspect abuse or neglect, immediately contact Adult Protective Services or local elder abuse hotlines to initiate an investigation. A quick safety note: this video is entirely for educational purposes. If you are in need of urgent help, do not hesitate to contact local authorities or call 24/7 hotlines. In the U.S., you can reach the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 and the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline at 1-800-422-4453. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you found this content helpful, please hit that subscribe button. It really motivates the channel. What psychological topics or social phenomena are you curious about next? Let me know down in the comments.